We live? Oh, yes. No.
Oh, yeah, I got a notification.
We're
Watch live
live,
now.
baby. Oh, I gotta unmute it.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, I got a notification. Watch
We're
live
live.
now.
Oh wait, I don't. Yeah, I go. We're good to go.
All right. Crazy.
Welcome to the first ever League Cast.
Live.
We're probably going to be all awkward now that we're live, aren't we?
Yeah.
I have a feeling I'm gonna forget in like 5 seconds.
I'm going to sound like the biggest idiot. That was last week. I got that out of my system last time. So.
Oh, you mean last time
Last
we did
time we
podcast?
did this. Yeah. Yeah.
What do you mean? Idiot.
Oh, I was not articulate on my DK Metcalf thoughts. And so I was like I don't regret anything I said about DK, but I regret how I said it, I guess. So,
well, while we're talking about DK, we might as well talk about
Dude,
the fact that
Okay, Parker. You were ticking me off last night. You're like, dude, DK, such a whiner, such a loser. The new dude. Okay, first off,
he is. Just gonna say it.
if we're looking exclusively at last night, he didn't throw any fits. He didn't have any close-ups on him banging his helmet against a bench or anything like that. And second, and I do agree. I think we all agree to an extent that he's not very mature and he's kind of a loser mentally. But last night, did you see how open that guy was? Like all the time. So I kind of at this point, especially looking at last night, I understand the frustration. I still think you should control it and not be an idiot, but we would have won that game, or at least put ourselves in a much better position earlier in that game if Russell had made a few more good looks at DK, because he was wide open. Even on that 2-point conversion to end the game, he was unmarked running from the center of the field to the right post, or the right, the far right corner of the end zone, wide open. Russell had time in the pocket, and he did, I think, a really bad look, bad throw, bad pass. Yeah. But yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Oh, you're right. No, nothing about last night was DK Metcalf's fault. When I brought it up in our group chat, it was just to say it, just because I have a fun time pointing it out. I guess it's true. No, it wasn't his fault, though. From 95% of that game, Russell Wilson, number one, couldn't hit the broadside of a barn when he threw the ball. Man, he was sailing that ball left and right over people's heads, and which you can attribute to the finger. What you can't attribute to the finger was just how he could not seem to find the open man that game, which was pretty shocking, given that the Washington football team is one of the worst defenses against the pass, and there were lots of times where DK or other players were open. And he had some good throws to Lockett kind of sprinkled in the game, but it was pretty much a good pass to Lockett, and then 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Another Lockett, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. I think they had 5 3 and outs in a row, which tied the league record this year or something. But yeah, no, the game was pretty much on Russell Wilson. The defense even showed up actually a lot, given how often they were put back on the field. And that was going into the season was, the defense can just show up. This offense is so electric that they'll be fine. Well, the narrative is completely I wouldn't say flip because the defense isn't elite or anything now, but now it's both. The offense and the defense can't really put together, but at this point it seems irrelevant. I think playoff contention is pretty much off the table at this point.
Yeah, I think we've spent a lot of time discussing the Seahawks this season, and I think last night it's a good conclusion to it that they suck, and we don't know if it's the offense's fault, the defense's fault. We don't know if it's a coordinator's fault, if it's the head coach's fault. I think obviously it's a little bit of everyone's fault, but whatever system is going, they're doing, it's not working. So at this point, I think, as a Seahawks fan, we need to see some changes made, and I think some big ones. I think my biggest worry is, there's a good chance Pete Carroll retires at the end of this year. I think that would be for the best. But what I worry is we lose Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson. That would be a worst case scenario for the Seahawks, but it's pretty likely. It's a pretty realistic possibility.
I'll say this about the Seahawks' future. I do feel like lots of people are overreacting to this whole situation, though. Like, it's doom and gloom in Seattle. Like, everything has gone wrong. The only thing that really went wrong was your quarterback got hurt. And this is pretty much what would happen to any team that has a quarterback of Russell Wilson's caliber, I feel like. He kind of accelerated his recovery, and after seeing him on the field, it looks like he probably should have stuck with the timetable most people were estimating when he originally hurt that finger. Because, when he came back, he's like, oh my gosh, Russell Wilson came back so fast. Well, he didn't really quite come back, did he? He's been really off. And you guys, honestly, these past two games might have been better off with Geno Smith, who got you guys at least a win or two when he was here. So, I don't know. There's a chance Pete Carroll retires. There's a chance all these things happen, but I don't know. At least from the outside looking in, I don't know. I definitely don't think, like, for example, the ultimate overreaction would be Seattle, like, we're going to ship off Russell Wilson to get draft picks because he's not looking very good. I don't think they're that stupid to not realize our quarterback is currently hurt and he has years and years of great play. So that's not overreact, but you never know what'll happen. So that's my thought.
Yeah, I think, you're right. It is an overreaction with Russell Wilson. He's not even 100% healthy. And, that plays a big role in it. But I think it is more doom and gloom than you think, because it's not just Russell Wilson got injured. We're last in time of possession. We're last in third down conversions. We're still one of the worst defenses. We're allowing the most yards. I mean, there's so many things that we're like last or second to last. Important statistics. It's not good anywhere. So yeah, I mean, Russell Wilson playing well helps. And I think both of you made the point, especially last season, like the Seahawks are nothing without Russell Wilson. I think that's pretty true, because now we have him, but not really him, and the team's absolutely terrible, where typically he can carry the team into wins. Like an on-fire Russell Wilson would have won that game last night. But, I mean, it's just we're rock bottom in so many ways. And I honestly don't think it's players. I mean, we have a pretty good roster. We have pretty talented players, good depth and stuff. I think it's more of a coaching and an offensive scheme, defensive scheme. There's just bad play calls. It's too simple. We're playing zone when we should play man. We're playing man when we should play zone, kind of thing. There's just, maybe I'm being a negative Nancy, but I feel like there's just too many problems.
What happened to optimistic Tom? Like, the league has broken you, it seems. It can do that. Now
Dude, you're the one. Every time I was optimistic, you're always like, dude, just admit they suck. Well, here you go, Parker. You're welcome. I'll admit it now. I'm not going to be optimistic anymore. They suck.
I wish I had not asked for that.
Give Parker a lot of credit. He called it that the Seahawks were the most likely team to get last in the division at the beginning of the season, if I remember correctly. So props to you. That's looking very true.
I didn't predict a Russell Wilson injury or anything, so things haven't gone as I didn't foresee it. But yeah, no, good. You have some things to address, but the problem is you don't have draft picks. You don't have a number 1 draft pick this season anyway, which is a real bummer given that it's probably going to be a pretty nice pick at this point, and it's going to the Jets.
Yes, the Jets. You're barely better than. I wish that was an exaggeration, but it's not. It's not.
It's not good. It's not. Yeah. It's not looking good.
Well, to go with what Parker was saying about the Seahawks being stupid to get rid of Russell, it's not really a matter of that because I don't think they are. But does Russell want to come back to the Seahawks?
Yeah, I think that's the big thing.
The big thing. And so, yeah, I don't know what will happen with that.
There's a lot of layers of complication to that too, Austin, because he's in this situation where I think he'll slowly kind of come back to being himself, but the running game still sucks. The play calls still suck. Everything still sucks. And let's say hypothetically Pete does leave. Well, that's one check on his list of things he probably wants in order to stay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then he's on a team that still sucks and still has no draft picks.
Yeah.
So, there's I totally foresee him being like, yeah, if I'm going to get out, now's the time. I mean, of course, I hope he's loyal, and he's always said he's loyal. But, I mean, you got to be pretty dang loyal to look at this team and be like, yeah, I think I'll stick around for 3, 4, 5 more years,
Well, I don't think Russell's going anywhere this off season. If the Aaron Rodgers saga taught us anything, it's when you're a quarterback of that caliber, it's pretty hard to force your way out of somewhere, at least right away. If anything, Russell will restructure his contract if he puts up a big enough fight like Aaron Rodgers did. And that took months of Aaron Rodgers not showing up and not talking to anyone for them to do that. I don't expect Seattle will bend over any less when he's under contract. So I think
it would depend on who's the boss. Like, the difference between Aaron Rodgers is like the GM is very much in charge, and the ownership is with the public, but it's very structured, and things are good for the Packers in that way. And the head coach is solid. There's no question about his, his job. He's not in the hot seat at all. Where I think in a situation where if Pete Carroll is the power man, where ownership's just like, yeah, Pete, just do whatever you want. Like, I honestly don't see why Pete would leave, unless he just want his legacy completely tarnished, because there's no one above him that can fire him unless they like tell him you're fired, which to me, I don't feel like that's happening. I feel like they're just like, you're Pete, you just keep doing what you're doing. And if Pete and Russell have a big enough tiff and Pete stays, Pete might just ship Russell because he just doesn't want to deal with it anymore.
If Pete's worried about his reputation, he better not do that, because that will not go well for Pete.
I agree with that, but I mean, I don't know. I make the best decisions.
I see what you mean, because it's hard. If the voices and the public perception around Seattle get loud enough to call for Pete to leave, someone somewhere will make the decision and Pete will be gone. So I think it can happen. I don't none of us, I think, really understand the dichotomy of who does what in that organization, really. But, if Seattle fans are calling for it enough, and if the money goes that way, yeah, they'll find a way to get rid of Pete. I don't think they'll get rid of Russell, though. And if they do get rid of Pete, they're definitely going to fight tooth and nail to keep Russell, because what coach is going to sign on to play there if they know that their Pro Bowl, Super Bowl champion quarterback is on his way out? Right. That happened with the Texans. The Texans probably knew that Deshaun was leaving, but they still told David Coley, no, we're not getting rid of Deshaun. He's going to stay here. And they signed him, and he said, they told me Deshaun's staying here.
So, well, it was kind of true. They still have him. He's on the roster.
I mean,
they weren't lying.
If Miami had agreed to the trade, he would be gone. Or no, actually, I can't remember. Maybe I heard the Texans backed out because they think they can get more for him. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway. Well, either way, he was on the roster when he signed. So
right. So Russell Wilson, I believe, will at least be on the roster as well. Now, I don't know. I don't think Russell Wilson's going to make that much of a fuss. Maybe he proves us wrong. We'll see.
I don't know. Good luck, Thomas. Good luck with that.
It'll be an interesting post-season, that's for sure. Off-season,
sure will.
Oh, man. All right, let's just go through our teams then.
Right.
Thanksgiving Day. About midday afternoon game. A little Cowboys-Raiders, but...
Yeah.
But it wasn't really the full Cowboys, though, was it? You guys...
Oh, yeah. Well, that is my comfort, is no CD, no Amari, no Randy Gregory, no DeMarcus Lawrence, which he hasn't been playing most of the year anyway, but we had no pass rush, and it showed because our two best pass rushers were out. It was really hard to throw the ball because our two best receivers are out, and I'm seeing now how much Noah Brown sucks and why he's the fourth string and can't rely on Cedric Wilson. He's not, as good as advertised.
Yeah.
He definitely needs his CD and Amari to help him out, and he can't be covered by the best corner.
There were some nasty drops in that game.
There were, and it showed. And so, am I worried about the Cowboys? A little. If we can't stay healthy, then the season's over. But we'll only lost by 3, and I try not to blame the refs too much. And the last 2 pass interferences were legit, but the 2 in the beginning of the game were a bunch of bullshits, man. Dude, I was like, what? Yeah. Are you freaking kidding me, dude? I was pissed. I'm like, dude, that's so ticky-tack. So I like, if the Cowboys got, the momentum, things could be different. But, they had a chance in overtime to win it, and so, they deserved to lose. But there was a lot of things going against the Cowboys that game, and it was close. They only lost by 3 with everything falling apart. And people will be like, well, it was 14 each. They called a bunch on the Raiders. But, dude, it was like it's just to like hide their bias, man. There was always like, ours was always on 3rd down. Theirs was always on freaking 1st down. So, I was like, that's just to get people to argue. That game was totally like, dude, Ed Hockley, or not Ed Hockley, but the main ref, who is it's his son or nephew or something. Dude, he was like hiding a smile every time he called a penalty on the Cowboys, man. And I know everyone on the comments, the few people that are listening to our live are like, oh, what a freaking Cowboy fan, blah, blah, blah. It's all true, man. It's true, man. It's true. Refs ruined that game, and the injuries were bad. The Cowboys will bounce back. I guarantee it.
Man, it's ruining the league. I'm telling you right now.
I guarantee it.
Well, you guys didn't have your 2 best playmakers at wide receiver, but this week you're going to be without head coach Mike McCarthy and a few other personnel coaches, and I think at least, let's see, maybe one offensive lineman due to good old COVID strikes again.
Yeah. Yep.
And you guys are playing the Saints this week?
Saints have a really good defense. Losing Mike McCarthy doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But losing the other guys does a lot. So I'm very worried about this game. But the nice thing is like having the 1 seed's pretty much over. So
is it? I mean, you're up 2 games on the Eagles and Washington right now.
Well, winning division is we're going to win the division. The playoff bye is what's out of the question. To me.
Okay, yeah. That's what. Well, I'm not.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No, the Cowboys are winning the division, easy. Okay,
I'm not as certain about that. I mean, I do think if I had to pick, I definitely think Cowboys are the ones that can win. But I don't think it's as set in stone as it was a month ago.
Sure. Well, that's fine. And yeah, the Washington football team and the Eagles are just a few games back, and the Cowboys can win 2 more games. And if they do that, they win the division. It'll be fine. But I mean, they play the Washington football team twice. If they beat them once, I think they'll be okay.
Yeah.
As long as we win the division, as long as we make the playoffs, it's fine. Because the Cowboys play the same at home as they do on the road. So home and road games don't really matter. Obviously, the Cowboys are not the best team in the NFC. I think my mind has changed quite a bit of the Packers. I don't want to play the Packers anymore. And the Buccaneers are always going to be scary. As long as they have Tom Brady, anything can happen. So it's going to be a tough road to the Super Bowl. As long as they're healthy, they have a chance. And that's all. I think that's all I really have to say about that. As long as they're healthy, they have a chance.
Yeah, I think that should be the main priority of the Cowboys at this point. I mean, you're almost guaranteed to win your division, if you keep playing well. So I think it really is, if I were, a Cowboys fan, I would want to see my team getting early leads and benching, Dak fourth quarter, even if it's, fairly close. I mean, not close. You know what I mean? Like, if we're hovering around a 15, 2-score lead into the fourth quarter, I think you just need to protect your players as much as possible to protect that playoff drive, because you'll be in the playoffs almost certainly. Yeah. So I think it's really playing smart and keeping guys healthy.
Yeah. I'm not worried about the playoffs. They'll make the playoffs. It's the health. Hopefully this whole COVID thing goes away on the Cowboys soon. If we just get it and then get it over with, so that we don't have to worry about it for the playoffs. But it's infuriating, that whole thing. But that's a whole other topic. But yeah, like talking more football about it. Dak has really grown because we've seen him without his top receivers, and before they got Amari and how he'd struggle, and he looked better than that. But we still see that Dak really needs his weapons to be successful, and so that's why I'm still hesitant on putting Dak in that category. And that's also in my comp forever, I think, will be him and Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen is also a quarterback that without Stephon Diggs wouldn't be the same quarterback either. And the Bills, I think, are kind of the Cowboys of the AFC. Is that they're so hot? They can be hot, and when they're hot, but when they're cold, man, they're cold. So their team, like, you can't trust them all the time, but they're really good, and you're like, they can make the Super Bowl, but sometimes you're like, I don't know, maybe. So, I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah. Yeah, you mean about the Bills and sort of...
Yeah, Cowboys and Bills, just how hot and cold.
Right. That's very true for the Bills. They've lost some games they had no business losing, but they've blown out some lesser competition and beaten some good competition. And that's kind of the story right now with the AFC.
Yeah.
The entire AFC, there's no one dominant team right now. Everyone looks vulnerable at different times. Even, perennial contenders like the Chiefs started off real slow, and they might still be vulnerable. We'll see. The Titans were great, but they've had so many injuries that things look rough. Ravens, Bengals, Bills, almost all of them have had like these bad losses, to be honest. And it's kind of the rising voice of the AFC. The one team that doesn't seem to have a whole lot of weaknesses is the Patriots.
Yeah, it
is. I didn't think I'd be saying that so soon, right?
It's way too soon, man. And it's, I was thinking about it just this morning. Wasn't it just this offseason where Bill Belichick had his spending spree in free agency where he went and got all these guys and he was just throwing money? Well, it seemed to have worked, and we kind of, us and the whole NFL community kind of just thought it seemed desperate. It seemed like you're just trying to get names. Well, I have a feeling every player he signed was a player he wanted specifically, because the Patriots right now, they're no one person. They're just one team, you know what I mean? And you can say Mac Jones, but Mac Jones he's only doing what he needs to do, and he's doing it well, but he's not lighting the league on fire. He's just winning games in classic Patriot fashion, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a scary team right now, and they amazingly now are leading the AFC East with an 8-4 record, one win more than the Bills have.
They're doing it the Patriot way, and I mean, I think we're all slow to it too. We're because they started out 1-4, 1-5, or 2 something. They had a losing record, and we're towards the bottom of the AFC at the start of the season, and they just got hot, and they were nearly beating good teams. They were right up with the Buccaneers. They were right up with the Cowboys, and they had beat the Chargers, and they haven't looked back since. And man, it's a scary thought. Honestly, I'm really excited for Bills Patriots on Monday. Now, it's a statement game for both teams. Bills, we run this shiz now. Patriots, we still run this shiz. go back to the basement. But,
and I think they play each other twice in the next few weeks, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So
this first game's huge.
It's gonna be that's gonna be good TV right there. Is that game?
Yeah.
If the Patriots do get that win over the Bills, it's at that point it will no longer be the Patriots are back ? It'll be the Patriots are back, period.
Right.
And no one's gonna doubt them if they get that win.
Yeah. They're a team to watch out for, because they are built for December, January football. And
their biggest hurdle, assuming they can keep this regular season winning going, is navigating the postseason with a rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
But if any coach can get a rookie quarterback to the Super Bowl and win it, Bill Belichick's probably that guy.
Yeah.
He's basically done it before, one time a long time ago, but
we know what happened after that.
Yeah, dude. Well, yeah, that's
oh my goodness.
That's crazy.
Can you imagine the Chiefs dynasty cut short for Patriots dynasty part 2, separated by only a couple seasons? Like,
yeah. I don't know if I could stand it.
That
It's like the Patriots win another 3 this decade. That's painful. Because I've forgiven Tom Brady. I find him fascinating now. Like, I don't hate him at all. I find, like, the only thing that I would hate about him is if he beat the Cowboys in the playoffs. But it would also just be expected because that's what he does. It just beats everybody in the playoffs. But watching the Patriots win more, like, because there's nothing you can do about it. Like, Bill Belichick can coach till he dies. you know, like, if he wanted to. So.
It's true. It's really true. The only thing, and I'm deciding in my mind whether I want this or not, but don't you feel like it might be a good thing for the most rings to be with a team rather than a single player?
that does feel more right. Yeah.
That's the only thing I'll say. But yeah, but besides that, I don't know. Just looking at the AFC, since we're kind of there right now, I mean, I do sadly feel like the Chiefs are probably going to come back here at the end of the season and probably go on a little bit of a tear. I'll be really happy if I'm wrong about that. So obviously you can't count them out. And then the AFC North is still close.
It's a bloodbath.
It kind of right now. I mean, of course, standing wise, if you guys are looking at it, but also just in quality of team, it sort of feels like it's between the Ravens, Bengals right now.
Yeah,
because there's a lot going on with the Browns. There's a lot of negativity coming out of Cleveland around Baker, and Pittsburgh is 3 games back, and they haven't exactly impressed anyone consistently this year. So I feel like it comes down to Ravens, Bengals right now. And if it's going to be those 2, I think Lamar can get them the division title. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm on the Ravens train. It was a weird game against Cleveland for sure, but I think that's more of an outlier game, and they still won. I just think they're dynamic enough, and they've got their game plan. It'll be interesting to see what Cincinnati does because, the Bengals play the Chargers this week. It'll be Burrow versus Herbert in the Class of 2020 Bowl. And I think both those quarterbacks they don't have a lot to prove because everyone just kind of just accepts that they're good. But both of them have a lot to prove for their team because they both are part of traditionally losing franchises. So there's not a lot that rides on the game between each other, but there is for the legacy of their franchise at this point of the season. So that's another game I'm really excited to watch this week.
Right. I don't know. Yeah, what do you think, Thomas? Do you think the Ravens beat out the Bengals, or who do you got winning that division?
In just the last 3 or 4 weeks watching the Ravens games and then watching the Bengals games, in general, it's hard not to think the Ravens win because they're good. I think they're one team that has kind of an offensive scheme unlike any other, just with how Lamar Jackson plays and stuff. But man, they've got it figured out, and they're playing to his strengths, and he's playing to the team's strengths. And yeah, like in the end, they're just a better team. I think they have better personnel in general than the Bengals do. Bengals were hot, or between warm and hot, for a good part of the season, but I think they still will. I mean, they're in contention for a wild card. That's one thing that's interesting is the AFC is honestly a lot more competitive in the wild card race. Well, it's weird. They're more competitive in the sense that there are more teams with good records that are fighting for wild card spots, where the NFC, it's just there are lots of teams with bad records fighting for the wild card spots. So like both pretty dang competitive, but in different ways. But yeah, the Bengals have every chance of they still could. We could all be wrong, and they could win the division, but they're definitely a playoff contender. So I don't want to take any credit from them, but same thing. I mean, you just watch the Ravens play, and yeah, they've had fluke games, but every team has fluke games throughout the season. Most teams don't go undefeated. But yeah, I mean, that's one thing about Lamar too, is he stays healthy. The way he plays, it's incredible that he's starting every game. He's healthy. He's doing him.
I wanted to bring that up. He stays healthy in a football sense, but interestingly, the dude seems to be kind of a sickly kind of guy in other ways. What was just a couple weeks ago, he missed the game with, I don't know, like flu, cold, something, some sort of sickness. And I don't know if you guys saw the clip. I somehow stumbled upon him like walking into the stadium because they left up to a game time decision. And man, he's like bundled up in this hoodie, drawstrings pulled tight, hands in the pockets, and he is walking like the sickest guy you ever saw, man. And I don't know if he's trying to like sell it so they're not criticizing. But
I think that's a big part of it. His agent is like, dude, look sick, or else you're gonna get criticism. But yeah,
he was walking like a sick guy, man. And there's the time where he had to leave a game temporarily to go take a dump, and came back and won a game. I think the guy's got stomach issues, dude. I don't know, man. Something's wrong with Lamar.
Hey, all I'm saying is I'd take those kinds of issues any day over like some CMC issues.
That's true. I'd agree. Now, speaking of issues, if we're going to stick with AFC South real quick, like I said, Titans have had some tough losses. Derrick Henry was the loss. But if I'm not mistaken, they're down A.J. Brown right now, and they've definitely not looked the same. I'm going to go ahead and say at this point, I've seen enough. I think the Colts are going to end up passing them and take the division title here, mostly because the Colts have looked pretty dang good in lots of games. And, not just when they really whooped on the Bills, but they had a close game with the Buccaneers that could have gone their way if a few things didn't happen. A muffed punt got turned over, and then that really swung momentum the Buccaneers' way. But I think at this point, the Colts, they're who I'm going to pick to take the AFC South.
Yeah, I got to give you a lot of credit for your Colts prediction early on too. That was a good one. Yeah, I can see it. The Titans are just too hurt, and people will say next man up, but there's only so many men, and the Colts do look really good. They've cleaned it up quite a bit. Carson Wentz has looked more confident, and they know what works, and that's Jonathan Taylor, and he's like a very, very different kind of back than Derrick Henry, but seems to be equally effective. So, yeah, I can totally see the Colts passing the Titans. I won't give you any pushback on that.
I've definitely seen a lot more memes making fun of the Titans than I have the Colts lately, which is pretty weird.
That's how you know who's got the momentum in the division right there.
Yeah.
If you're a big brain NFL fan, that's exactly how you know.
Follow the memes. That's how you find the truth. Oh, man. And then, man, what to make of my good old AFC West?
Yes.
Every team, Chiefs at 7-4, and everyone else is 6-5.
Dude, what a competitive division, man.
I know, dude. Dude, I'm not gonna lie. I think the Broncos will beat the Chiefs this week.
If that happens, it'll be the first time in, I think, half a decade we've beaten the Chiefs.
I think it could happen.
It can.
I think it might.
It won't. No, it could. It's not going to. That's my pick.
Dude, I think it might though.
The Chiefs are the monster under the bed for the Broncos. Even when, and that being said, most of the time we don't feel like we have any chance to beat them when we play them.
Yeah.
This time, I don't know, man. Like I said, I think we're playing the Chiefs at the wrong time. Their arrow's pointing up right now. They're somehow, some way, the Chiefs found a way to have themselves viewed as underdogs in the league again. And when the Chiefs are underdogs, that's when they're at their most dangerous because they feed on that. That's how they've won so many postseason games coming from behind. So no, I hope it's a good game. Obviously, I hope and pray that the Broncos can somehow, please beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, please. But it feels off to me. I don't know. And the Broncos are too inconsistent, man. Every time this season they get a win that feels really good, they follow it up with an underperforming loss. Whoop on the Cowboys, then falter against the Eagles, then show up against the Chargers. It's this week's turn to lose to Patrick Mahomes on Sunday Night Football when the lights are brightest. So if I had to bet, that's what I would bet.
Yeah. Well, the Chiefs have a bye, so that does kind of suck. Like, had a bye this week, which helps them. But what I do like, and so obviously the last game the Chiefs played was against the Cowboys, and the Cowboys only held them to 19 points, and they were without their two best pass rushers in that game as well. Randy Gregory didn't play, and Demarcus Lawrence didn't play, and what the Chiefs were doing was just the Chiefs defense wasn't like good. They just knew the play. Like the Cowboys offense was just so predictable that game, where even I was like, dude, they're gonna throw a screen. Like it was like everything was just so obvious, and they were just waiting for the screens and waiting for everything. It wasn't, to me, a testament to the skill of the Chiefs' defense. It's just them having watched film and the predictability of the Cowboys' offense. I don't think their defense is necessarily back. And what I like about the Broncos is they do have a good pass rush. They were in Justin Herbert's face a lot last week, and I think they can do the same thing to this Chiefs offense, and they can get Patrick Mahomes quite a bit out of sorts if they feel like it, because like you said, they're off and on. But if the Broncos are on their game, I think this year's Broncos match up really well against this year's Chiefs.
Yeah, I think there's things that we could take advantage of. I think our defense can get to them. I think the problem is the Broncos' offense is just like what you're talking about. You guys ever watch a game and you see a team get in this amazing rhythm on offense? It happened to me when I was watching the Colts against the Buccaneers. It was in the fourth quarter, I think, and they go on this drive, and of course I'm watching because I have a player on that team who I'm highly invested in named Jonathan Taylor. Anyway, they had done nothing the whole time, and then this drive, they just get in this rhythm, and they're mostly feeding off Taylor, but it was so good. Like, I was watching it, and I'm like, all right, hand it off to Taylor. They do. They get 5 yards. I'm like, all right, hand it off to Taylor again. They get 6 yards. And I'm like, okay, now fake it to Taylor and throw it. And they did it. And I swear, like, every time and again, I'm just watching it, so I'm not saying I know what the play, but what seemed to me like the time to do what they should do, they did it, and it worked every time. And they just went on this long drive. The Broncos never do what they should do, okay? They're like, they just don't get – it's really, really hard for them to get to those rhythms. They live and die off of momentum and off of lucky play. I'm not going to call them lucky, but really it always seems like it's up to the players to make plays rather than the offense as a whole just clicks and gets going. And that's what's always been so hard in the past. And I put some of that on the coaches. I put some of it on the execution of quarterback play, all the above. But that's the main holdup for me, not only this week, but going forward. Watching the Broncos this season, it's been a lot of the same. Just clunky, not smooth, not rhythmic offensive play.
Yeah, I saw that when I watched the Broncos-Chargers game. I felt like I was the only one in our group that was like watching it. I wasn't even sure you were watching it. I thought you were watching Packers-Rams, but a lot of it was Patrick Surtain just closing the game out with his 2 interceptions, and it was just like, not the offense being amazing, but just the defense shutting down Chargers offense. And yeah, I totally see that, and that can be something. But really, that's if you can shut down the Chiefs' offense with defense, it'll be a close game. It just depends on if he's making plays. If Patrick Surtain is, if he's in rhythm and he's reading Patrick Mahomes and taking advantage of his weird sidearm throws and whatnot, there's a good chance.
Patrick Surtain has proven himself to be a great draft pick. I mean, this past week, that Chargers game, 2 picks, 1 pick, 6. Obviously, we're capable of doing it. It's going to be a mental thing. Just a lot like the Patriots-Bills. I feel like, as weird as it sounds, I feel like the Bills might be the ones a little scared right now. Oh my gosh, like it's the Patriots again.
Right.
It's the same thing with the Broncos to the Chiefs. It's like as the Chiefs, and it's just kind of a mental. So we'll see what ends up happening. But anyway, that division, it's so wide open. Obviously, Chargers and Raiders. The Raiders, I think lots of people thought they were going to just drop off a cliff with the whole Gruden thing and other things. With the Ruggs deal, and they've stumbled, but they're still in it, despite all that. So
it's a good roster, and the interim coach is doing a great job.
Mm-hmm. He really is.
Especially after really watching him when they play in the Cowboys. I'm like, he does a lot of sneaky stuff, and like good play calling, lots of and Derek Carr, he's letting him rip. They're 7-0 now, 8-0 when he throws for over 300 yards. Like Derek Carr's not the problem with the Raiders. They're pretty good.
They are. I mean, it's a good time to be a Raiders fan, even though you're not completely dominant. For how consistent they've been through this much adversity, I think that's a really good sign for what years to come are. Especially, I think I don't know. For example, in the MLS, the Seattle Sounders parted ways with their head coach halfway through the year in 2016. And they were just having a rough start to the year. Ziggy Schmidt was just, there were reports of him just not caring, kind of losing it. So he left. And Brian Schmetzer, who was the assistant head coach, filled in his interim. And they won the MLS Cup that year. And he got a full-time job as a head coach. And he's won Coach of the Year. And the Sounders have been even more dominant than they were before. They've made it to the playoffs every year their team's been in existence. which is really cool. But the point I'm trying to say is, do you think that's something that can happen in the NFL? If an interim head coach performs well enough, can he get a head coaching job?
Oh yeah.
And do you think that
Jason Garrett?
Yeah,
That's what Wade Phillips got fired in the middle of 2010 after 6-ish games, and then Jason Garrett got the job, and he coached the Cowboys
That's
for like
true.
10 years.
I didn't even think about that. But
Yeah,
you know, do you think that's something that could happen in the Raiders organization?
Oh,
I think he's earning it right now. I think they'd be foolish to move on.
I think so too.
Really surprising how well they're doing, losing how much they've lost.
You know, but knowing the guy, he was the special teams coordinator with them, I think, for the entire time John Gruden was there. So he
knows the system.
He knows the system. He knows the team, and the team knows him. So that's still a huge leap to then lead the whole team. But they made the right choice in who to do it. And like, unless they decide they want to rebuild or change their identity,
right,
which is possible. But if they want to continue the path they were on, then they definitely should not go with anyone other than him, because he's just kind of carried on what they were doing. They haven't had to change their identity, but they played well.
Yeah. That division just crazy wide open, and like, well, I think the Chiefs and the Chargers are probably the two favorites. It wouldn't surprise me if any of them won the division. Broncos are probably my bottom guess, but they're all right in it, and I think it'd be cool if they all made the playoffs. I think it's completely possible.
Could be, man.
With 7, yeah, we'll take it all. That would be. I don't know. There's two. Maybe if this division was plopped in the NFC, it would be possible.
Yeah,
but in the AFC, there's lots of other teams that are also fighting for wild spots.
Yeah, but AFC East and the AFC North mostly. I mean, obviously the Titans played well with their backups, but I see them winning like maybe 2 games at the most for the next, more. Maybe just 1 more, but that's it for me. I don't know if they win much more than that.
That's very possible, but at this point, you don't know. But I'm going to say the Patriots or Bills are getting a wild card spot.
Yeah. Yes.
And the Bengals have a huge shot too, and the Browns are out of it.
The AFC is just crazy competitive. Crazy competitive.
Which is good. We like that.
The NFL is going to become a different story a little bit, though. It's whereas, what is this? And
it used to be the AFC was the top heavy one, everything else was garbage, and NFC was the bludgeoning, anybody can take it. Where now the NFC is got the top heavy, real, like, people are like, yeah, that team's probably going to go to the Super Bowl teams, and then a bunch of trash. Which I don't know what I'd rather have, or in my own conference, but
yeah. I mean, just looking at it, just one quick thing. Besides the Colts and Titans, which, funny enough, is the one we think most likely where the team that's not currently leading the division will end up winning it, every other division in the AFC is only 1 game apart from the division leader and second place. In the NFC, the Dallas Cowboys are up 2 games. The Packers are up 4 games. Buccaneers are up 3 games, and the Cardinals are up 2 games. Yeah. So 2 is the lowest, and we go all the way up to 4 games in the North. So, I mean, we're probably going to have some playoff clinching happening a lot earlier in the NFC than we're going to have in the AFC, especially for, like, right now the Packers.
The Packers are going to win their division. That's not a question.
That's a good guess.
And the Buccaneers, I would say the Buccaneers are almost even more sure than the Packers, just because even though, numbers win-loss, I guess you got 3, 5, and 6, but they're all really bad.
They're all on the low trajectory. The Saints and the Panthers started up here, and they've just been plummeting ever since. And the Falcons have just been steady trash. So
yeah, the Falcons kind of had a little resurgence, like in the middle of the season. They stole some wins, and they've come crashing. I know they just got a win, but
yeah, against the Jags, so that doesn't count.
Yeah, against the Jags, right? It doesn't count at all. And then the Panthers, the Cam Newton show.
Oh my god! Just the last podcast, Cam was back. Now he's bent.
Now he's back to the bench.
Do you agree with that decision? Was that the best thing that Matt Rule could have done? Was bench Cam?
No, it wasn't. It's a mess.
Dude, those stats were bad.
I agree with the benching, and I'm going to tell you why. Because you knew going in that Cam wasn't the future.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, man, I can get this kind of production with guys I haven't seen play before. So might as well just go play the guys I got right now, because I'm not committed to Cam at all. So it'd be different if it was like, I'm planning on you being the starter next year too. But if he's not, then it's like, then why play? I just signed you for a year with absolutely no commitment. I can leave, you can be gone next year. Doesn't matter. So why play him if he's going to play like crap? Might as well play the guys that you have on the roster that you still need to see if they have anything in the tank.
Do a little due diligence for next year.
Yeah, I didn't watch the game. It was Dolphins, right? Panthers, Dolt, and
yes,
and they benched Cam Newton to put Darnold back in.
Nope, Darnold's injured, so they put
they put in PJ Walker or whatever. Yeah.
Third string.
PJ Walker. Yeah, I forgot Darnold was injured, mostly because I thought it was too convenient that he was injured right when they got him. I thought it was one of those saving face injuries. You know what I mean? But
sure. Yeah.
Okay, so they put PJ Walker in. Okay, yeah. Well, I guess you can see what you got with PJ Walker.
Yeah, I mean, we keep him on the roster next year. Is there a point? You might as well see what you got, because you could have, the next Tom Brady sitting in, the fourth quarterback spot. You might as well throw him in there and see what you got,
I guess you're right in the sense. I mean, your argument, Cam's not the future, so it's I normally do hate benching quarterbacks during a game. As a rule of thumb, I usually think that's a desperate, not very good decision, and I especially hate it when it's the quarterback you want to be your future quarterback. But you're right. Everyone knows Cam is not that. So I do see your point with that.
No, I agree. Benching is last case scenario. You better be committed to the next guy if you're going to do it. But that's exactly the thing. You're not committed to Cam. And you don't have to be committed to the next guy, because PJ Walker knows it deep down that he's probably not the answer either. So you might as well just play the guy. See if you get any trade value out of him, or if anybody wants him, and if not, you're gonna have to release him anyway. So, or might as well see what you got in a backup to see if you need a better one.
So, look, I'm gonna say something, and I think there's not many people that agree with me at this point, and I'm not sure I even agree with myself. But part of me can't shake the fact that I'm still not sure Sam Darnold has gotten a fair shake yet. A really fair shake. He started this season off really hot, and things went south drastically when they lost Christian McCaffrey. And I'll admit they got bad. They got really bad.
Yeah.
But that's a team that's proven that they can't really operate without Christian McCaffrey. They're built around him. He's the most important player on their team by far. And I don't know if Sam will get another chance or not in the starting position. But I do wonder if Christian could have somehow put together a healthy season, what these Panthers would have looked like. They looked really different when they played your Cowboys early in the season. They looked dangerous early on.
They looked good in the first half. They just didn't have the personnel to keep up in the second half. But when I watched them, I thought they looked really good in that game. Sam Darnold had 2 rushing touchdowns.
Here's the issue with Sam Darnold is, first off, no one's gonna have a completely fair go in the NFL, and especially when you're looking for someone that you want to be somewhat of a franchise quarterback. I think that's when they should prove that they do have those qualities. It shouldn't be the quarterback relying on the running back's health. If anything, it should be basically every other player on the team relying on the quarterback's health, if that kind of makes sense. So, I think he's had more than a fair enough. Here's the issue with the league, I think. Now more than ever, quarterback play, there's not as much gray area. It's a pretty big divide between being a good, A or B, or maybe like a C+ tier quarterback and above. And then there's a gap down to like D- and F quarterbacks. So, there's almost like a scarcity for good quarterbacks that a team can rely on. And that's why there's so many teams in situations where their quarterback is just not delivering and the teams are suffering because of it. And I'm not saying, this is all off the top of my head, but I think in general, I mean, we thought this last quarterback draft class was like loaded with good quarterbacks, like the best in years. Look what's happened. And everyone's been saying this coming draft class is worse. And you never know. I mean, guys really flourish and can blossom as rookies in the league. But in general, I think there's kind of a scarcity of good quarterbacks, and there's too many teams desperately trying to get someone, that sticks. They're throwing noodles on the wall, hoping things stick. And, you can't blame them, but I definitely think Sam Darnold is one on the lower end. He's had more chances than most quarterbacks ever get. And yeah, they've been in bad cities, bad teams, whatever you want to say. But at this point, I mean, he's the best they have now if he's healthy. But I would still be looking if I were the Panthers. I think they thought they solved a problem with that trade. But, it's not good when your quarterback's sucking because your actual star player is injured. I mean, you don't want your quarterback to rely on one other player and their health, if that makes sense.
I tend to agree with that in most part. I don't know. There's something about it, though. I feel like in this situation, with the caliber of player Christian McCaffrey is and what he means to that offense, it's almost like losing your quarterback to them. You know what I mean? Like I said about the Seahawks. The Seahawks lost Russell Wilson, and really he's not fully back now. So what you're seeing, it's like, okay, this is what happens when you lose your quarterback. Most teams, and I'm not saying it's wise that the Panthers are so reliant on Christian McCaffrey, but most teams aren't that reliant on a running back. But they are. They really, really are. He makes that offense tick. And I think it goes beyond just his individual plays he does. I think they've schemed around him. They've counted on having him, which I don't know why, because he has not been there for quite some time consistently. But I don't know. I think what you're saying, there's a lot of truth to it. And it's probably going to be the case for Darnold, but I think there's still a chance. I think he deserves one more chance.
Wow, dude, you're sounding a little bit like Colin Cowherd over here.
And I don't know what the Panthers' options are going to look like too. So they might be faced with give him one more shot or get someone subpar, because we'll see how the season shakes out. But they might not be in the top 10 there. I mean, they're 5-7 right now. Who knows where things end up, but
Yeah.
I don't mind that Darnold getting another shot. It can't be with the Panthers though. And the nail in the coffin for Darnold for me is losing the locker room so quickly with Carolina. His receiver core pretty much just gave up on him midway through the season. And I, maybe not justly. Maybe they just don't have the patience for Darnold, and they probably hopped off the bandwagon too soon. I don't know. I'm not in there, but it was very apparent that he lost his receiver core trust, and at that point, it's like, all right, if you need another shot, it's got to be somewhere else. But it's going to be really hard to get other people to believe in you when people can easily see how much the Jets and the Panthers didn't believe in you in your previous spots, and that can be very unfair. But that's just the reality of it.
Yeah. No, I think you're probably right. You don't get too many shots in this league, so it's going to be tough. We'll see what happens, but we got to talk real quick about the Rams.
Yes, that is a necessary topic. Absolutely.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that everything's happening just as Austin predicted. I think you're one of the loudest voices saying these additions aren't necessarily additions. And I don't know if you're going off of wins and losses, 3 straight losses after all this money spending. Seems like you might be right.
Yeah, it's that. It's guys looking over their shoulder now of their jobs. It's that they're too soft. They're so soft, and and I place a lot of this on Sean McVay. I think he's a great coach. I think he's an Andy Reid type, amazing play drawer upper, all that in a bag of chips. He's a great motivational guy. You just look at him, like I look at Sean McVay and I'm like, dude, I'd run through a wall for you, man. You look like so much fun. Like I want to go waking out at a water park with Sean McVay. Like he just he just looks like he's like a fun dude. Like, come on, dude. Yeah, let's go on the wave runner and
you want to chill the lazy river, man? Let's just talk football, dude. Let's go.
Dude. I want to race him on a water slide, and he just seems like a lot of fun. But
to see it,
he's very soft. Like his players aren't the toughest around. They get punched in the mouth quite a bit, and he's not the greatest situational play caller. Like what to do in a third and short, time management's okay, but it's the situational play calling. And just the general softness of the team, along with the additions as well. Just everyone just like Von Miller and Odell are clearly washed, and and everyone just like, wow, like I could do that. Why does Sean McVay trust me to have as much production as that? Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
there's a lot of that.
I think one thing too is I think everyone got a little excited about Matt Stafford. I mean, I remember before the season started, the hype, like, oh gosh, Matt Stafford, he's the new GOAT just because he's on the Rams, where clearly he started well, but there's been a decline, and whether we can blame it on the acquisitions or something else, but he honestly lately is looking like Jared Goff 2.0.
That's harsh. Oh, that's so harsh.
I wouldn't go that far, because I think Matthew Stafford would have at least 2 wins on that Lions team, but I think Parker was right. I think is he does have a lot of Detroit Lion PTSD, and things have not been going right for them up front. And when he's under duress, he makes a lot of bad decisions.
He does,
I mostly said that, Thomas, because I hate Jared Goff so much. That's mostly what I was getting at.
Don't get me wrong, I'll still put him above Jared Goff, but the gap is a lot smaller than we all thought. But I do think the OBJ thing, I mean, the connection between Stafford and Cooper Kupp all year has been absolutely amazing. And I think when you put a personality like OBJ in there, I mean, it's clearly affecting it. OBJ had a pretty good game, on Sunday. I can't remember the exact statistics, but it's the best game he's had out of the few he's been by far, and even a good game for his career the last few years as far as production and efficiency. But every pass to OBJ is a pass not to Cooper Kupp. And I'm sorry, but Cooper Kupp is your bread and butter. I don't know why you would ever decide to split that in half. You know what I mean? And so I do think that plays a role in Stafford's performance, the offense's performance, and the team's performance. So, I mean, for me, it's a perfect storm. I'm loving this, but I think this just goes to show sometimes paying the money, getting the names creates a lot more problems than it solves. And they didn't have problems in the first place, so I don't see why. Especially in hindsight, it's like, I don't think that was a good idea. But
that's a point I actually hadn't thought of, Thomas, was, the taking away from Cooper Kupp, because, that's been the most unstoppable quarterback wide receiver connection this year by far. And
oh my gosh, it's like, it's not 4 or 5 yards consistently. It's 13 yards, 17 yards every time. It's just a guaranteed first down.
And they just had such a mind meld, it looked like, so quickly for being teammates. But, I'm looking at the box score, and OBJ got as many targets as Cooper Kupp did, and he got almost the same yardage, whereas I know through the first couple months, week in, week out, Cooper Kupp was dominating the target share in that offense. So that's something I hadn't really thought of, but it's not like anyone had solved how to stop Cooper Kupp this year. No one has stopped him.
Mm-mm.
So, and it was working. It was completely working. I think there wasn't much of a reason to add such a big name and big target. Sure, they did lose Robert Woods, which hurts, but OBJ is not Robert Woods. Robert Woods is a perfect supplemental number 2 guy.
Yeah.
OBJ might say he's willing to do that, but that's not OBJ.
No, yeah. I mean, replace Woods with someone like Woods, not with OBJ. And, we don't know how early they knew. Maybe that's why they signed OBJ in the first place. Like, look, we're out Woods. Let's replace him. Here's a low-hanging fruit. But, man, I just don't. I think there's so many teams that wouldn't touch OBJ with a 40-foot pole. And especially after this, I mean, I'm sorry, he's washed, and he's still got that Giants beach boat cruise photography curse following him around, man.
It'll never leave him.
He's a number 2 that believes he's a number 1, and that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. And the other thing I'll add to the whole dynamic of it is not only did they sign these players, but I think infamously around the league, when they did, the GM, owner, whatever, tweeted, like, we're all in. You know what I mean? Like, they put their stake in it, saying, like, we, in a very public way, are like, we're doing these things to be better than everyone else and win the Super Bowl. You don't do those things in this league without teams being like, "Oh, you're all in, huh?" Like, okay, you're gonna try and play. You go all in.
Is watching the Rams like a hawk. They're under a microscope, and that was even before that. Like, everyone's watching how Stan Kroenke and Sean McVay are doing their business, and they're like, if it works, we're all copying you. If it doesn't work, we're not doing anything that you're doing, like because that's a copycat league. It's like, oh
yeah.
wow, they did that and it doesn't work, and I really hope it doesn't, because if it doesn't, it would save the league.
Mm-hmm.
It saves the league if it doesn't work.
And
Because
the number one thing, if I have to guess what exactly you're talking about, is building your team through free agency, not the draft, or
right,
you know,
it creates a 3-team race over a 12-team, 14-team race,
Mm-hmm.
where you all the like it empowers the player. Like player empowerment. That's great because you get your money, do your thing, go get your Super Bowl rings. But too much of it just creates too many whiny players, and teams can't build around anybody because no one can stay long enough because they're all like everyone becomes a ring chaser. And so we can just squash that. The Rams, this whole experiment ring chasing thing can get squashed out of the NFL, save it becoming from the NBA. That'd just be the best thing that could happen to the league.
I think if anything, it offsets what the Patriots have been doing, right? we
we
got
the
a
Patriots,
little offset there.
I don't know why people can't catch on to what the Patriots are doing, because the Patriots have been doing the same way. Like, you're all expendable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in a different way. Like, we don't replace you with big names. We're going to replace you with the guy that's already on our team. So, like, and it's all schematic. It's very rigid. They're a tough team. Like, all about the fundamentals.
The Patriot way, the reason why is because it's just be really good at coaching and be really good at drafting quality talent and be completely logical and unbiased when it comes to cutting and keeping players. So it's really hard to do.
It's hard to do. No one's caught on to that, and that's what Patriots keep winning. And you don't see any other team in the league do it the way the Patriots do. Whereas teams have already been caught trying to copy. Like the Bengals got the only reason Zach Taylor has a head coaching job is because of Sean McVay. Mm-hmm. And so, teams are really eager for the flashy thing, but we've seen what works in the NFL.
Because it's almost simpler, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, go get the big name players, trade away those draft picks. Who cares? Do these fancy offenses that can be replicated based on coaches who have been around Sean McVay. It's easier than Patriots just get good.
Yeah.
Here's a big issue too. I mean, looking at it from the outside, and this just kind of popped in my head, and you guys can tell me if this sounds ridiculous. But we know Von Miller is not the Von Miller, like his name represents something 5-6 years ago, not what he is now. And clearly OBJ is too. There's a good chance neither of those players, especially Vaughn, he's not on the team by the time they get their draft picks back. Like, he's going to be possibly long gone by the time they replace those draft picks that they traded for him. And of course, it was just a second rounder. But
third rounder, baby. Ooh.
The point
was that, Austin?
I remember what the trade was for Vaughn.
It was a second rounder. It was.
Yeah. And second round, it's hard to give weight to especially second round and on draft picks. But either way, I mean, the fact that there's a good chance his life expectancy on the team is less than replacing what you traded for him, that's not a good sign. OBJ was different, where they're just paying money, I believe, which I don't know how they are because they were already in cap space trouble. But either way, I mean, these trades really didn't. If you took away any emotion and names and history, they weren't good trades.
Yeah, no, I think I told you guys when it happened. Like, when I saw the headline that Von Miller's traded, of course I love Von, so I was like, oh man. But when I saw we got a second rounder, I was surprised. Like, that's second rounder is high draft capital, especially for a player who has fallen off from their prime, like Von Miller has for years. So yeah, I agree with you, Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, a second rounder, you're not going to get a star RB or QB, but
you can. Oh, you can get tons of stars.
Taylor was a second round draft pick, I believe, and
yeah,
there's value there. I mean, you don't know because they'd be a first round pick if you knew that they were going to be a star. But
Yeah.
I mean,
what I'm saying is, worst case, you get a really good lineman or, some other position. That's where top tier players, offensive, defensive, linebackers, you can pull them out of. So, a second round is worth a lot. Same thing. I mean, it comes down to the individual player you choose, whether they're a go or a bust. But I mean, the whole reason I brought that up is I just think when you look at it that way, those trades were bad. I mean, there's a really good chance the Rams in the last few weeks have literally screwed over the future 3-4 years of their franchise.
Yeah, it kind of feels like the opposite of Moneyball. That movie
exactly.
Where it's all calculated, like we need to pay. They're just like, that's a big name, money, draft pick for that guy, whatever,
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Well,
real quick, last quick topic, and this,
okay,
we could spend forever on this, and I think we will spend more time the coming weeks, so let's keep it short. Right now, who is your guys' MVP pick? I'll go first. Give you guys time to think. And look.
I know you're going to say.
Dude, I know what he's going to say.
I know you both know what I'm going to say. And I'm not, it's not a hill I'm going to die on, because it obviously really, even more so than any other person you could say, it really depends on the rest of the season. Because it has to not just be good, it has to be very good for there to be any chance of this. But if there's any year for a running back to win MVP, it's this year. And the trick with it is, it doesn't have as much to do with the running back as it has to do with the quarterbacks in this league. This is probably the first year I can think of where there's not many quarterbacks separating themselves when it comes to that talk. Mm-hmm. Every quarterback has had bad games. Every quarterback, there's lots who have had good games. Lots of people would have thought Josh Allen, but I think he's been a little bit too inconsistent to really be anywhere near a front runner. Kyler Murray would have been, but he's been injured for so long. He's missed like 3 games in a row now. That's almost a disqualifier in the MVP race. Aaron Rodgers, I think his arrow is pointing a little bit up. He's had a bit of consistent string of good games, so I'd think about that. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is maybe you guys prove me wrong with who you say. I personally can't think of a quarterback that I'm like, this is the guy that any other player has to beat. So with that in mind, Jonathan Taylor and what he's done consistently throughout the season, what he's meant to that team, and the fact that, he's way ahead of the other players. Might not have been if Derrick Henry were still healthy. Probably definitely wouldn't have been. But at this point, he's by far in the lead in rushing yards, scrimmage yards. He has more scrimmage yards, I think, than any other player, wide receiver or running back. That's why I'm tentatively going to go with him here into week 12 as my pick. But like I said, he has to not just do okay. He's going to need to ball out through week 18 to have any shot to get that. He needs to definitely get over 2,000 scrimmage yards. Right now, I think he's around 1,300, so he can. I don't know. That's who I'm going to go with for now.
Dude, he has absolutely no shot of winning MVP, man. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not in denial that it's a quarterback's trophy. I'm not.
Yeah. And it's not only because of that, but like you said, it was an understatement when you said very good. It has to be, he has to I would say he'd have to get 2,500 rushing yards for him to win. Because after Derrick Henry's season of getting 2,000 yards and not winning, I just don't believe 2,000 scrimmage yards. Scrimmage yards is definitely not enough. It's got to be 2,000 rushing yards and another 1,000 receiving yards are
I
something
don't
bad.
think that's true though, because he's not competing against Derrick Henry's stats from past seasons. He's competing against people in this season.
I understand that, but another problem is the Colts are 6-6. That could change. I could see them finishing 10-7 even, but if MVP was the morally correct choice, he'd be considered. Like if you're just like value to the team. But for me, it's got to be Aaron Rodgers as the MVP favorite of who I would say would probably win it again for the second time in a row. Just because of after everything that has happened over in the offseason, how well he's playing right now, like leaps and bounds better than anybody but Tom Brady, I would say, in as far as consistency. And we've seen what the team looks like with Jordan Love. Aaron Rodgers means so much more to the Packers than even I would say Jonathan Taylor does to the Colts. I would say like
I agree with that.
as good as Jonathan Taylor and important as he is for the Colts, Aaron Rodgers is even more important to the Packers than as value wise is to the Packers than he is the Jonathan Taylor to the Colts. And it is a quarterback award. The Packers are 9-3. They'll probably get the 1 seed. It's between them, Arizona, and Tampa Bay. And Arizona's faltering a little bit. Kyler Murray's not healthy. The Bucks, Tom Brady's known to have a few stinkers. I think that Aaron Rodgers, with the way he's playing and the storylines going in, and after the bad game with the Saints and just the upward trajectory since then, it would be hard for me to say that anybody else would get the award over Aaron Rodgers and he'd win another one this year.
I kind of agree with Austin. I will say, Parker, I do agree with you. If a running back is ever going to get it, this would be the year. But I also agree with Austin where it's got to be a lot more than 2,000 yards. It's got to be 2,000 rush.
It's got to be,
500 plus in the air. It's got to be, 20, 30 touchdowns. You would have to have an insane year to outshine even a bunch of quarterbacks that are having their issues. And I was going to say Aaron Rodgers because, I kind of agree with everything Austin said. So I'm just going to put a name out there that probably won't happen. Probably definitely won't happen, but I think it's worth keeping eyes on. It's exciting, kind of. Mac Jones. For a rookie, is playing incredible. And we all know that MVP really comes down, it's a numbers race. I mean, it's based on statistics. And if you look at Mac Jones, the pace he's on for like a true rookie, as far as touchdowns, as far as wins to losses, as far as point deficit or surplus, outscoring opponents, and the few mistakes he's made and turnovers he's given. Like I said, I don't think it'll happen. But if they continue on this trajectory, especially with how they've been playing the last few games, he could become a serious contender as a rookie. I'm thinking like, Lamar Jackson's a really good quarterback. Patrick Mahomes is obviously a really good quarterback. Even Dak Prescott is someone that's been playing fairly well. But I think all these quarterbacks are kind of just playing what is expected of them and their name, if that makes sense, especially based on years past, where an MVP needs to like clearly be having an amazing season. Yeah, I don't think anyone really is. I'll put Aaron Rodgers on the top, but gosh, Mac Jones is playing, he's exceeding expectations, and there's not much to base it off of. But yeah, that's all I'm saying. I think eyes should be held on Mac Jones.
I think Mac Jones is as close to locking up Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I would say Rookie of the Year. But like having a good year for a rookie isn't the same as, having a good year for an MVP. I don't know if he's having an MVP level season. Obviously, we see how valuable he is because they're a different team than when they had Cam Newton. But I would, yeah.
The trick is it's not just a quarterback's award. It's a statistics award too.
Right.
And Mac Jones has 14 less touchdowns than Tom Brady.
He does. But you got to remember, that's have you seen how many of those touchdowns have come in the last few games?
Yeah, I don't know exactly numbers wise, but I think that's the same thing that's going to be held against him. He had a little bit of a slow start to the season.
I mean, that's the thing, though. There's something that can be held against every player, even Aaron Rodgers. I mean, it is statistics, but the fact that he had a terrible first game, he lied about COVID vaccination, on paper he looks great.
Just for that, actually.
Yeah,
not a joke, they might not.
They just punish him. NFL can be petty like that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, going off of what I just mentioned, if I be honest and realize this is a quarterback's award right now, just looking at, I would say Tom Brady is currently the front runner, and I think they would love to give Tom Brady another MVP. But I stand by what I said. If Tom Brady has a lukewarm December and no one else lights it up, there's no Lamar Jackson this year, who's just undeniably the best. There's no Aaron Rodgers of last year, whose stats, there's just no one like that right now. So, like I said, the window's open. It's possible. In the years past, it was literally impossible, I would say, almost.
Yeah. I wouldn't. I don't think it's possible. Because we've said this with other years too. If a quarterback's not going to win the award, it'd be this year. We've said that with Christian McCaffrey. We've said Derrick Henry had a 2,000-yard season. I think he might be the first 2,000-yard runner that didn't. Well, I don't think Jamal Lewis did either. But this century. And we know how valuable Derrick Henry is to the Titans. I just don't see. I don't think he's having as remarkable of a season to merit this to change it from a quarterback.
I think you're right, and I stand by. If it happens, it's going to take Jonathan Taylor playing his best football in December, which is going to be a tall order, obviously. And it's going to not only take that, but it's going to, like I said, it's going to take no quarterbacks separating themselves, where he is so further above his other running backs, and there's no quarterback that is. A lot of things need to happen.
Yeah. Well, even then, there was the year where Aaron Rodgers won MVP. I think this is 2014. And him and Romo was in the MVP race too. And there were quarterbacks that, Aaron Rodgers wasn't so far ahead of every quarterback when he won that award, But J.J. Watt was head and shoulders the best D lineman, not even close. He was having an insane season, even more insane than Aaron Donald has ever had, and Aaron Rodgers still won the MVP. I don't think it matters how far ahead you are of your position. It's how valuable you are to your team.
Well, that's the thing. It's a statistics race to the point where it's like, okay, Jonathan Taylor, we see you have 2,300 rushing yards and 26 rushing touchdowns. But what's your passing touchdown interception ratio? Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
You're not in. Like that's
Aaron
Yeah.
Rodgers that year didn't have like the most spectacular quarterback season anyone's ever seen, or a unique one, and he still won. And JJ Watt had the best defensive season since Lawrence Taylor, and
Yeah.
didn't win. So
Yeah.
the window's been closed for years, in my opinion.
if it weren't a statistics race, it'd be a very different story for Jonathan Taylor and Mac Jones. But
and I see what you guys mean, and I do agree with almost all of it. I'm just gonna put that out there now, so if things do go that way, it's yet another thing.
I was right.
I'm saying saying there's a chance. That's all I'm saying.
There you go.
All right. That's good enough.
All right, everybody. I think this is a good time to wrap it up. It's been a long one. Nothing wrong with that. But thank you all for being here for the first live stream. Or if you're here on the recording, that's fine too. Just as relevant. Is awesome. Appreciate the support. Appreciate the views, the likes, comments, subscriptions. You're all awesome. Good week.